Rated PG-13.
Hello Internet peoples, welcome back to another episode of Luke Does Gaming. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of, well, some I have to tell you guys. All my retro game reviews are very boring, if that's a word. So I've decided to switch things up and make it a bit more of the comedy that people want and what my channel sort of focuses around. I'm here in my room, I have my television right here. It's about time that we take another step back. What I mean by that is that originally when I started this retro game series, I started with the NES, and then I'm pointing over here because this is where my collection is. I started with the NES, and I went on to the Sega Genesis via genetic mutation by making my NES touch my dog. That's a thing. I took a step back to the Intellivision, which is a brilliant console with an amazing controller, and I didn't really edit that one very well toward the beginning, but toward the end I think I did quite well. Whatever, leave a like on that video if that's what you think. Anyways, getting to the stuff you guys want to hear. Obviously, if you've seen the thumbnail, watched this video already, or read the title, I'm talking to you, you illiterates, you would know what console we are reviewing today. Released in 1978, we had the Intellivision. Released in 1977, we had something that is smaller than the Intellivision, and yet still enormous. Ladies and gentlemen, the Atari 2600. I got this for Christmas. A big shout out to my mom for donating this to the channel. It's a rather brilliant console, and it's probably the best. What am I trying to say? This console is probably one of my favorites because, I mean, it's an Atari. You can't get any better than Atari. Besides Sega. I'm talking to you, Dreamcast. Anyways, this Atari is in amazing condition. The sticker is a bit... I don't really have a word for that. But let's look at the good stuff. The plastic is in really good condition. All the screws are in there. All 4 rubber feet on the bottom are attached. And now let's go to what the actual console specifications look like. So here at the back we can find a very long wire, like very long. And at the end, this single plug, a single plug. This plug looks... Focus! Frickin' focus! The plug looks a lot like AV cables, and it is in fact the same type of plug used on the Intellivision, which is why, when I got this for Christmas, the donator, my mom, was very kind enough to add this. Yet another... whatever that was, to coaxial, which you simply plug in there. Very easy. Going back to the actual console, there are a lot of things to talk about on this big brick of a brick, I guess. What the frick? If you remember on the Intellivision, on the back there were vents. On the Sega Genesis, on the side there were vents. On the NES, on the top there were vents. That was out of order. The way I said those. On the Atari here, this whole front is vents. And why did I rub that? The whole front is vents, and the system stays very cool in temperature. However, if you want it to get hot, aka get destroyed, take the power brick, plug it into the console, and don't turn it on. You don't want to keep it plugged in for a long time. So yeah, let's look at the actual things at the front. Okay, so this is the Atari. Right here we have the Atari logo. Atari 2600. Pretty radical console, if I do say so myself. And once again, like I said before, this is in very good condition. I've never seen any Ataris like this before that are in this good condition. Anyways, here at the front, we have the video computer system logo, pretty radical. And our cartridge port, which I have a lot of cartridges that came with this. Haunted House, a mystery label cartridge, which we'll look at when we play this thing. Kangaroo, which is a Donkey Kong knockoff. Not surprisingly, Donkey Kong for the Atari 2600. For those of you who play your Xboxes, Nintendo actually licensed their games to other companies like Atari. Coleco, when they made the ColecoVision, actually had a version of Donkey Kong. And Intellivision also had their own version of Donkey Kong. Let's see, I don't have Adventure, which is a classic, or E.T., which I really want to add to my collection. I can't remember off the top of my head all the games, but there are quite a lot. And they're all, oh, I think it's called Star Raiders, where it's like a Star Wars ripoff, and it's a free roam space game. Although I die every time, even though my shields are permanently up for some reason, I found that to be a really fun game. And before any of you, Alkas, whatever, if a lot of you are going into the comments right now and saying, you need the Star touchpad that goes into the Player 2 controller, or whatever Player 2 controller is, I have that as well. And I don't know why that button sort of isn't working. It may have been because of a loose connection in the connector, and I just put it in incorrectly. Might have been my fault. Whatever. I'm just blabbering on. So that's the cartridge connector I just showed you. Here we have the power switch. A thing to select whether your TV comes in black and white or color. Really interesting. Works really well. Even on color televisions, you can play in black and white. Game select, which selects what game mode there is, depending on what game you got. Oh, I just remembered I also have combat. That's what this reminded me of. And game reset, which resets the game. And now you noticed, where are the controller ports? They're not at the front, they're not at the back, they're not on the bottom. They are at the back. Let's have a look at that. Okay. Controller port. This one is player 1, I think, because it's very sunken in. Very sad that that's sunken in, but it works and it has a very stiff connection and won't get sunken in depending on how you put it in. That looks like a headphone or AV out. That is actually for the power brick. These two switches set the difficulty of player 1 and player 2, which is over here. And this sets from all these AV things. You have a switch that sets it to sets it to either channel 3 or 4. This one is strange, as it says, it's upside down for you. It says set to channel 2 or 3. However, my TV it only works on channel 2, so I just keep it on that. Let's have a look at the power brick. Let's have a look at the controller. The controller I have bundled up as usual. Those of you who have an Atari Flashback, this may look familiar. That's because the Atari Flashback was, well, based off of this. It's sort of sunken in, which, you know, that's kind of interesting. I don't know why they did that. I really don't have anything else to say. A very cheap 9-pin connector port, used by everything and every Family clone ever. The button on the Flashback is very clicky. This one's a lot more like the Intellivision reset button, sort of soft and then click. However, I bet, yeah, that's it. And the joystick is not like the ones from the Flashbacks. First of all, it's covered in rubber. It's impossible to unscrew it. It's more comfortable to hold for some reason. And for joysticks, there were two types of ways it worked. The first one was with contact, where, like the Atari Flashback, if you moved it, there will be no noise. Then there was micro switches, hence the name. There were small switches that got hit when you moved the joystick. Those were all micro switches turning on and off. This controller is really comfortable, and I could tell just by feeling this, it's taken a lot of wear and tear. Why? It still works. Ataris were made like tanks. That's why. So that's the Atari. Very quick and very nice. Let's set her up. So you have your Atari. Get your power brick and plug it into a nearby wall socket. However, do not plug the cable into the Atari. As I said before, it will kill it. Find the coaxial adapter and unplug it from the wire. I find it best to screw it on and then plug in the wire. Once you're done with that, plug in the wire again. Now just plug it in. Now for one of the final steps. Get ready to turn on your television. Very simply hit the power button or throw a pencil at it. Now take the headphone jack looking thingamajiggy wire tip thing and plug it into the back of your Atari 2600. Now take your Atari 2600 cartridge and place it into the cartridge slot. Okay, let's look at our first game. Let's hit the on switch. Here we have the legendary Space Invaders. Now, obviously you've probably heard of this game before. It's where the aliens start coming down and your ship hears a big frick. Anyways, let me try plugging in the control using the 9-pin connector. If I remember correctly, I think my head just got in the way. It's that one. Yeah. Okay, so unlike modern consoles, you don't hit start and it suddenly happens. Like, I'm hitting every button here. I'm actually getting hit with lasers and nothing's happening. So yeah, technically the game is running. But in order to actually play the game, you have to hit the game reset switch on the Atari. And I died it. I died it. Let's try to get through round one. I died again. And that's it for Space Invaders. Now simply turn off the console and remove the cartridge. So that was Space Invaders. Opinions on that? Pretty fun game. You know, it's a classic. Next, let's go to Haunted House, a game with an actual cool plotline. You're trying to find the 3 pieces of a magic chalice, I think it is, in a haunted house. And the only way you can escape the haunted house is finding the 3 pieces of the ancient chalice. But also, go through all, I think it's 4 or 5 floors, and avoid ghosts, tarantulas, and bats. It's a pretty fun game. I originally hated it, learned how to play the game, finished it in like 14 seconds. I can give you proof. Hit reset. Hitting fire activates your flashlight. Okay, that's 1 piece. Like, you see that? That's 1 piece. Not the anime One Piece. Up a floor. Okay, that's the 2nd piece. That's the magic scepter that allows you to pass through ghosts. That's the final piece. And that's what happens when you die. However, you do immediately respawn. Admittedly, that game was sort of short, but I found this to be really fun, and although this looks white, it's actually blue. But yeah, that was Haunted House. Really fun game. Probably a 9 out of 10. That's it for cartridges coming directly from Atari. Now let's go for Donkey Kong. So, now let me read the details on this thing. For use with the video game cartridge for the Atari video computer system, that's what I have, and the Sears Video Arcade, which, you know, the Intellivision I have, that's the Sears model. Sears also made Sears Telegames version of the Atari 2600. Donkey Kong is a trademark of Nintendo of America Incorporated, 1981. Other tat, Donkey Kong by Nintendo. Strangely, on the back here, it says Coleco. Same people made the ColecoVision. Anyways, let's plug it in and see all of its beauty. Now, let's just do a bit of a comparison. I'm going to flash up a bit of a video of what the actual Donkey Kong looks like right about now. Zoom. And now I'm going to show you the actual Atari Donkey Kong.
What? What? What?
You know, I was surprised. But it controls very well. And these look more like waffles. Let's look at Donkey Kong. Yeah, there's no commentary here for reasons. And the levels repeat with no real level of difficulty increasing. So that was Donkey Kong. Now, let's go to another unlicensed game. The Mystery Cartridge. There's some screws right there. Very shiny. On the back, it says Activision. Here's the bottom if you want to see it. Cartridge connector there. Some springy things. It's impossible to see due to the lighting because I have the light up there and a TV. So, I'm going to plug this in. Let's find out what this is in 3, 2, 1. Oh crap, it's Pitfall! It's Pitfall! Let's turn up the volume on this. Pitfall Harry strikes again, or at least for the first time. as an adventurer searching for treasure through the jungle. These games had lore, you know? Now, if I remember correctly, there were 4 Pitfall games. There was this one, the original, which was also released on the Intellivision, and I think the ColecoVision. And there was also a version released on here. And I think it was the Sega Master System, I can't remember for the death of me. Called Pitfall, So, let's just get this straight. There was Pitfall, there was Pitfall 2 on the Sega Master System, and for the Atari 2600, and the Atari 5200, and I think the Atari 7800. Then there was Pitfall 3, the Mayan Adventure on the Sega Genesis, and the Atari Jaguar. Which hopefully once I get those consoles, which I mean, you know, I have the Sega Genesis. I have the Sega, I just don't have Pitfall 3, the Mayan Adventure. Once I get the Atari Jaguar, obviously I'll do a review on that. It's a really cool console. It's got Smexy cartridges. Now, hold on a second. I need to close the door. My dog. Ugh, very barking. Skill Z. Frick you. Campfire. What does it do? Kills us. Except for the fact that I jumped over it. Now here it is possible to travel underground. Watch out for scorpions. I think it's easier to travel underground, however there are its problems. If we encounter any. Yeah, see? Brick wall. So you just gotta climb your way up. So whatever, that's Pitfall. So that's Pitfall, an endless runner with a bit of lore and amazing gameplay. Now, since I'm a bit of an idiot, let's cram 2 reviews into one.
Rated PG-13.
For a long time, Atari dominated the console market with the Atari 2600, with amazing games coming out like Pitfall, Pitfall 2, and so on. You can imagine a lot of great stuff came when Namco decided to allow Atari to use their license. What in the name of Atari Lynx's mother is this? Right. What is this supposed to be? Namco and Atari. What do you think when you hear those 2 game companies? Well, you probably think of the console that I am going to review in the future. Or you think of Dig Dug or Ballman. Pac-Man, actually. These 2 companies decided to make a deal. Namco went to Atari and asked, hey, our arcade classic, make it on your console. And Atari went, okay, what do you want? They go, Pac-Man. And he goes, okay, yeah, let's do it. Nolan Bushnell acted like an idiot and decided to make the game look bad. Now, the console I'm going to review in the future is the Atari 2600. And it was donated to the channel by my mom. For Christmas, I got it. And, you know, Christmas, it's been over for a while, but whatever. It came with a lot of games. These are a few of them. There are some more. And came with 2 cartridges. This and this. This is the outcome of Pac-Man on the Atari 2600. The television is all hooked up. The Atari's hooked up. Now let's review the game. The game was... You know how Sonic and the Black Knight was mediocre? And how Sonic 06 was terrible? This is worse. And don't even get me started on E.T. So let's plug this into the console. Hit the on switch. And as you saw before, this thing looks like tat. Like, what is this even supposed to be? Well, Pac-Man, obviously, but I mean, look at this thing! How in any way, shape, form, or dimension is this imitating Pac-Man? And not even imitating, it's supposed to be the Pac-Man. How in any... The only thing I could find is the basic mechanics and the death animation, and that's the only thing that resembles Pac-Man, and everything else is a waste of time, and in my opinion, a waste of budgeted money when they tried making this thing. This thing is a terrible game. Like, what is that intro theme? What is that theme when you start playing the game? Da 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 da. But I mean, you know, it's Atari. It's not as good as... You know, it's Atari. It's not as good as Nintendo. No cutscenes. Nothing at all. You can see the camera. You know what, I might as well just speak to the TV. So, Atari's Pac-Man, as we have seen, it's dreadful, it's horrible, it doesn't make sense. It was one of the 3 contributors to the crash of 1983. And you know what? Unplug the console before it overheats. That's one thing. Another thing. I'm going to create a creepypasta based off of this game. I played the game. I didn't like the game. Video games died and killed me inside. I grabbed a gun and I pulled the trigger.